the Jews just experienced Sinai, revelation with God, the 10 Commandments. Moshe goes up onto the mountain, is with God for 40 days and 40 nights. The Jewish people freak out. They build the golden calf. Moshe comes down, is angry, gathers the children of Levi and says, Ko Amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. So says God, the God of Israel. Simu ish charbo al yorecho. Each man should gird his sword. Ivru vashuvu mishar lashar. And you should go from gate to gate, b'machana, in the camp, v'hirgu ish et achiv, and each man should kill his brother, v'ishet re'eu, and each man should kill his friend, v'ish et kirovo, and each man should kill his relative. So I have two questions. The first question is, when did God say this? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that God said this command. And the second question is, this sounds like vigilante justice. How does this work? We don't really do this in Judaism. We have courts. We have a trial. We have witnesses. You need proper warning to execute somebody. There are lots and lots of court proceedings that should take place before just killing people, running around with swords. So what exactly is going on? Now, this isn't the first time that Moshe says, Ko Amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. So says God. So says Hashem, the God of Israel. He says it once before, when approaching Pharaoh. When he first approaches Pharaoh, he says to Pharaoh, Ko Amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. So says Hashem, the God of Israel, Shalach et ami ve'achogu li bamidbar. Send my nation free and let them worship me in the desert. Let them have a holiday for me in the desert. Now, if you look carefully, Hashem doesn't use those words. God never uses those words exactly. So this seems to be perhaps a precedent for a time where Moshe claims something in the name of God, and God doesn't say it exactly as Moshe says he said it, which is very controversial, in my opinion. When I saw these words written by Nechama Leibowitz, I was blown away. So the Rashi on the spot says that, so where did God say this? He says that Hashem said it in Parshat Mishpatim. Right after the 10 Commandments, God had a bunch of other laws, and one of the laws was whoever sacrifices to another god will be destroyed. So God didn't actually say it for this command, but he said it in general. And perhaps that is that's the time where God said it. Now the Midrash Tanchuma is exceedingly uncomfortable with this idea of vigilante justice, and says that you have to read this verse as a trial. Who was killed by the sword? Only those who received proper warning and who had 2 witnesses. Only those people were executed. The other people who did not have proper warning or did not have proper witnesses, so they were taken care of by God personally through either the water, they had to drink the water with a ground up golden calf, or alternatively it was a plague. But it is impossible to say that God would command reckless vigilante killing of people without a trial. Such as the Midrash Tanchuma. It's very powerful, however, it doesn't seem to be what the text says, what the Torah says. The Torah doesn't seem to be saying that. It's a hard read. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have a midrash from Tanat Eliyahu, from the study house of Elijah the prophet. And here, this midrash says, that Moses, talks to God and says, God, let me handle this one first. Your trait of justice is very strong. I'm going to go down from Mount Sinai. Let me see what goes on here. And then Moshe says, I have to put words in God's mouth. God didn't actually command this, but I'm going to say that God commanded it. Because if I don't say that God commanded it, people will say to me, it's wrong to kill so many people. A Sanhedrin, the high court, which kills one person every 7 years, is considered a murderous court. And you want to kill 3,000 people? That's murderous. So Moshe said, I have to put this in the name of God, even though God didn't say it. Moshe is seemingly fabricating the words of God. So says the Midrash. I couldn't believe it when I read it. And then Moshe then turns to God after it's all done and says, God, you wanted to destroy these people? The whole nation you wanted to get rid of because of only 3,000? 20 and up, there are 600,000, and that doesn't count the teenagers or the little children. The Midrash says, Moshe, it's true, puts words in God's mouth, claims things came from him and where it did not, but he was doing it for a higher purpose. He wanted to save the Jewish people. Our next reason is the Ramban, and the Ramban says that there were simply too many worshippers of the golden calf to bring them all to court. This was an emergency situation. There was nothing we could have done. And indeed, God did tell Moshe. But the Torah is not a history book. The Torah is not going to record every single thing and every single interaction that ever took place between God and Moses. Moses said it. And of course God said it to Moshe. The Torah doesn't record it. That's okay. The Torah doesn't record a lot of things. The Torah is not a history book. It's a religious theological text. And indeed, it might seem like it's vigilante justice, but it was ordered by God, and this was an emergency situation. The Jewish people would have been destroyed. This was after the Ten Commandments. They were getting married. And now, the Jewish people go and worship another god? Action needed to be taken. And although it makes our modern ears cringe, something had to be done. And finally, I want to conclude with the Ha'emek Davar of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, who lived in the 19th century. And he has perhaps the most radical view. He says that it was only the most righteous, those who were willing to devote themselves entirely to God, who didn't worship themselves in any way. Those were the people that came and surrounded themselves around Moses. Mila Hashem Elai, who is for God? Not who is for God as opposed to this golden calf, but who is for God exclusively, entirely, and doesn't care about themselves. Such a person who is so goes beyond the norm of what can be done and what should be done and what is expected of us in our relationship with God. Such people, then, were able to execute only their brother, only those whom they knew for certain had worshipped the golden calf. Not people that they had any vendetta against. No one who was their enemy. No one who they would have been pleased to have been eliminated. These were the righteous, the most righteous, who killed only those who they knew for certain had worshipped the golden calf. So did God command it according to the Ha'emek Davar? So not really, sort of. But God couldn't command people to attain a religious level that is beyond normal capacity. But it's not like the order didn't come from God at all. It sort of came from God, but it couldn't be expected fully. So to summarize where we are, we have Rashi who said that yes, God did command it, not explicitly for the golden calf, but he commanded as a law and a verse in another section of the Torah, and Moshe adjudicated the law. And following this Rashi, there's the Midrash Tanchuma, who says there was no killing spree, there was no vigilante justice. This was all done in court with proper witnesses, with proper warning, and such people were executed as they should have been according to the law. Then you have the Midrash of the Tanit Eliyahu of Elijah, who says that no, Moshe made it up. It was Moshe's own initiative. And he did it to save the Jewish people. The Ramban Nachmanides says that God did tell Moshe, but it's not recorded. And this was simply an emergency situation that justice had to mete it out. And finally, the Hamek Davar says that God sort of said it, but not exactly. He couldn't have said it fully because it's impossible to state, possible to command people to be abnormally righteous, but the most righteous executed only those whom they knew for certain worshiped the golden calf. Only their brothers. Shabbat Shalom, and I hope this gives us a new understanding and insight, and thank you to Nechama Leibowitz for expounding these beautiful ideas.